the black pullet, or the hen with the golden eggs. Some of the words in this work are omitted due to the magical weight and power these words carry with them. If you would like to know what these words are, please refer to the link provided in the description. The words and phrases omitted from this work will be noted by the narrator, comprising the science of magical talismans and rings, the art of necromancy and the Kabbalah, for conjuring the aerial and infernal spirits, sylphs, undines, and gnomes, for acquiring knowledge of the secret sciences, for discovering treasures, for the gaining of power to command all beings, and for unmasking all evil spells and sorceries. From the teachings of Socrates, Pythagoras, Plato, Zoroaster, son of the great Aramases, and other philosophers whose manuscripts escaped the burning of Ptolemy's library, and translated from the language of the Magi and of the hieroglyphs by the doctors Mizabula Jabamia, Dan Huzerus, Namamian, Judahem, Elib, and translated into French by Ajstov in Egypt, 740. Preface. The work which we offer to the public must not be confused with a collection of reveries and errors to which their authors have tried to give credence by announcing supernatural feats, which the credulous and the ignorant seize with avidity. We only quote the most respectable authorities and the most dignified in faith. The principles which we present are based on the doctrines of the ancients and moderns, who, full of respect for the divinity, were always the friends of mankind and endeavored to recall them to virtue by showing them vice in all its deformity. We have drawn from the purest sources, having only in view the love of truth and the desire to enlighten those who wish to discover the secrets of nature and the marvels she unfolds to those who never cease to search through the darkness surrounding them. It is only given to those favored by the great being to raise themselves above the terrestrial sphere and to plan a bold flight in the etheric regions. It is for these privileged men that we write. To us, no importance is given to the splenetic voices raised against us. The silence and the smile of disdain will be the only answers with which we oppose them, and we shall follow with firm, sustained steps the route indicated by the luminous stars which fill the heavens, which cover our heads, and which light these thousands of worlds. They bless every day the sovereign master of the universe, who created us, whose will maintains this admirable order, which commands our admiration, respect, and love. The black pullet, or the hen with the golden eggs. Before beginning this subject and acquainting my readers with this profound science, which until today has been the object of research of the most constant and profound meditations, I must recount how these marvelous secrets were communicated to me, and the manner in which divine providence allowed me to escape from the greatest dangers and, so to speak, conducted me by the divine hand. This proves that by divine will, it is sufficient to raise unto himself the last of beings, or to precipitate to naught those who are clothed with all power on earth. We all, therefore, come from God. God is everything, and without God nothing can exist. Who more than I may penetrate the eternal and sacred truth? I formed part of the expedition to Egypt, an officer in the army of the genius. I took part in the successes and reverses of this army, which, whether victorious or obliged to yield to force from eventualities and circumstances, always covered itself with glory. As there is no point in relating here any detail of this memorable campaign, I will recount only one single feature, which touched me and is necessary for the development of the story. I had been sent by the general, under whose orders I found myself, to draw up the plans of the pyramids. He had given me an escort of some mounted light infantry horse. I arrived with them at my destination without experiencing any accident or noticing anything that might suggest the fate awaiting us. We dismounted near the pyramids, tethered our horses, and sitting on the sands, appeased the hunger that tormented us. French gaiety seasoned the frugal meal. It was on the point of ending, and I was occupied with my work when all of a sudden, a horde of desert Arabs fell on us. We did not have time to defend ourselves. Blows of swords descended upon us, bullets whistled, and I received several wounds. My unhappy companions lay on the ground, dead or expiring. Our cruel enemies, after removing our weapons and clothes, disappeared with our horses like lightning. For some time, I lay prostrate under the burning sun. At last, regaining some strength, I stood with great pain. I had two sword cuts on my head and one on my left arm. Looking around, I saw nothing but corpses, a burning sky, arid sands, and a frightening solitude. Certain of a cruel death, I resigned myself to saying goodbye to my country, my parents, and my friends. Invoking heaven, I crawled to the pyramid, my blood reddening the sand destined to become my tomb. Arriving at the foot of these worldly marvels, I sat down and leaned against the enormous mass that had seen many centuries pass by and would see many more. My existence, I thought, was soon to end, like the day itself, with the sun nearing the horizon. Brilliant star, receive my goodbyes, I said with emotion. My eyes will never see you again. Your beneficent light will never shine on me again. Goodbye. As I uttered this goodbye, which I thought eternal, the sun disappeared. Night came and covered the world with its dark curtain. Absorbed in my sadness, I heard a faint noise a few paces away. A large slab of stone detached itself from the pyramid and fell on the sand. I turned to the noise, and by the light of a small lantern he carried, I saw a venerable old man emerge from the pyramid. A white beard covered his chest, a turban adorned his head, and his costume revealed him to be a Mohammedan. He cast his eyes around, then advanced a few steps and halted opposite the corpse of one of my ill-fated companions. "Oh heavens," he cried in Turkish. "A man is wounded, a Frenchman is dead." He lifted his eyes to the sky, saying, "O Allah." Discovering the other bodies, he carefully examined them, placing his hand over their hearts to ensure none still breathed. Realizing they were all dead, he uttered a painful groan, tears streaming down his face, and retraced his steps toward the pyramid. Hope entered my heart. Summoning all my strength, I called out to him. He heard me, turned his lantern in my direction, and saw me. Advancing, he gave me his hand, which I seized and pressed to my lips. Seeing my wounds, he set his lantern down, removed his girdle, and bandaged my brow. Supporting me as I struggled with weakness, he carried me to the pyramid's entrance, where he gently laid me on the sand. With an affectionate grip, he indicated he would return promptly. The old man reappeared with a flagon. Pouring a few drops of its liqueur into a vessel, he gave it to me to drink. A divine fragrance surrounded me. The liqueur revived me, and I felt regenerated. Together, we entered the pyramid. Descending along a sin, he approached me and invited me to remove my clothes with an attention and complacence difficult to describe. Having examined my wounds, he applied with solemn formality several balms from the vases I had previously noticed. Hardly had they been applied to my arms and head when the pains were soothed. He then invited me to lie on his bed, and very soon a beneficial and soothing sleep weighed down my eyelids. When I awoke, I looked around and saw the good old man sitting near me. He had not rested while I was asleep, fearing I might need assistance. I tendered him my most grateful thanks through the most expressive signs. In return, he signified that I must remain quiet. He gave me another portion of the cordial, which again proved its revitalizing effects. Afterwards, he examined me with extreme attention, and realizing there was no longer any danger to my life, he affectionately patted my hand. Satisfied with my improvement, he lay down on some cushions on the other side of the chamber. Soon, I heard him sleeping profoundly and peacefully. O benevolent one, I thought to myself, you are virtue par excellence, a pure emanation of divinity. You unite and bring men together, making them forget the pains that afflict them. Through you, they are restored to happiness, and indeed, you are this happiness, the object of all their wishes and desires. My host stirred and got up. He approached me with a smile, seeing me in a state of calm and tranquility, assured that I was recovering. He gave me to understand that he would leave for a short while to go outside the pyramid and observe the situation beyond. Bringing everything he thought I might need, he left me alone. Until that moment, I had not reflected on the extraordinary circumstances I had encountered. Safe in this subterranean place, I felt no uneasiness about my host. Yet, I knew this situation could not last indefinitely. Once cured, I would need to rejoin the army. These thoughts occupied my mind when I saw the old man return. He indicated to me that several Arab corps and Mamluks were patrolling the plain. However, his retreat remained impenetrable to all eyes, allowing him to avoid detection. He assured me that I was under his care and that he regarded me as his son. His words filled me with gratitude, which I expressed with visible emotion. Noticing my frustration at being unable to communicate effectively, he brought me a book, explaining that with its help, we could soon converse without hesitation. Having spent my childhood in a career that demanded discipline and reflection, I embraced the opportunity to learn. My host's compliance and dedication to teaching made progress inevitable. During my recovery, my host periodically ventured out to observe events in the outside world, though he remained unaware of broader happenings. One day, after a longer absence than usual, he returned with news that the French army had evacuated Egypt. He informed me that leaving at this time would be impossible. Instead, he urged me to remain with him, promising that my captivity would not be cruel. On the contrary, he intended to teach me things that would astonish me and fulfill all my desires for good fortune. By then, I had gained a sufficient understanding of the Turkish language to follow his instructions. He took me by the hand and led me to the far end of the chamber. Opening a door opposite the one through which we had entered, he took a lamp from the table, and we stepped into a vault. In this space, several coffers were arranged in orderly rows. He opened them to reveal their contents, gold and gems of every kind. "You see, my son," he said, "with this, one need never fear poverty. Everything here is yours. I am nearing the end of my life and will be happy to leave these treasures in your possession. These are not the fruits of avarice or greed. They are mine through the knowledge of the occult sciences, which I have mastered, and through the grace of the great being who has allowed me to penetrate nature's secrets. I can still command powers that populate the earth and space, invisible to ordinary men. I like you, my dear son. I recognize in you candor, sincerity, a love of truth, and an aptitude for these sciences. Above all, I see in you the potential to carry forward the knowledge that has cost me more than 80 years of research, meditation, and experience. The science of the magicians and the language of the hieroglyphs have been lost to man's downfall. I am their sole guardian. I will impart these precious secrets to you, and together we will decipher the characters etched on the pyramids, which have confounded scholars for centuries." The prophetic manner in which he spoke deeply impressed me. I expressed my eagerness to learn the wisdom he wished to share. Speaking in the Turkish language I was beginning to grasp. "Your wishes shall be fulfilled," he replied. Then, lifting his hand toward the heavens, he said solemnly, "Love, my son, love the very good and the very great God of the philosophers. Never become proud if he grants you the privilege of associating with the children of wisdom or of partaking in the wonders of his power. These are the principles you must embrace. Seek to make yourself worthy of the light. The hour of your regeneration has come. You will become a new individual. Pray fervently to him who alone creates new hearts, that he grants you the strength and understanding to learn the great truths I will reveal. Pray, hope, and prepare yourself for the high mysteries that demand unwavering resolve. You will learn to command all of nature. God alone will be your master, and the enlightened will be your equals. The supreme intelligences will take pride in obeying your desires. Demons will tremble before you, and the invisible beings of the four elements will vie to serve your will. Praise be to the great God who has bestowed such glory upon man, establishing him as the sovereign monarch of his creations. Looking intently at me, he continued, "Do you feel, my son, this heroic ambition, the unmistakable mark of the children of wisdom? Do you dare to serve only God and dominate all that is not of him? Have you understood what it means to truly be a man, to refuse slavery and embrace the greatness for which you were born? And if you possess these noble thoughts, as your countenance assures me you do, have you considered the courage and strength required to renounce all that may obstruct your path to attaining this destiny?" At this, he paused, studying me intently as if waiting for an answer or reading my soul. I finally asked, "What is it that I must renounce?" "All that is evil, in order to occupy yourself only with that which is good. The proneness with which nearly all of us are born to vice rather than to virtue, those passions which render us slaves to our senses, prevent us from applying ourselves to study, tasting its sweetness, and gathering its fruits. You see, my dear son, that the sacrifice which I demand of you is not painful and is not above your powers. On the contrary, it will make you approach perfection as near as it is possible for man to attain. Do you accept that which I propose?" "O my father," I answered, "nothing conforms more to my desires than that one should choose propriety and virtue." "It suffices," answered the old man. "Before unfolding to you completely the doctrine which will initiate you into the mysteries, which are most profound and the most sacred, you must understand that the elements are inhabited by very perfect creatures. The immense space between heaven and earth has inhabitants far more noble than the birds and the gnats. The vast seas have many other hosts than the whales and dolphins. It is the same in the depths of the earth, which contains other things than water and minerals, and the element of fire, more noble than the other three, has not been created to abide there useless and empty. The air is full of an unnumbered multitude of beings with human form a little proud in appearance, but in effect docile and great lovers of the sciences, subtle but obliging to the great mages and enemies of the foolish and the ignorant. These are the sylphs. The seas and rivers are the habitat of the Undines. The earth is full practically to the center with gnomes, guardians of treasures and precious stones. These are ingenious friends of man and easy to command. They supply to the children of the magicians all monies of which they have need, and only ask payment for their services in the glory of being commanded. As for the salamanders, the inhabitants of the fire regions, they serve the philosophers, but they do not seek the attention of their company. I could also talk about the familiar spirits. Socrates, as well as Pythagoras and a few other wise men, had theirs. I have one also. He is near me when I have need of him. This will no doubt seem strange to you, but even if your eyes do not convince you of the truth, you will be able to believe it if you have any confidence in Socrates, Plato, Pythagoras, Zoroaster, Proclus, Porphyry, Iamblichus, Ptolemy, Trismegistus, and other wise men to whose enlightenment one must add those who give us natural knowledge. It remains for me to speak to you of the talismans, those magic circles, which will give you the power to command all the elements, to avoid all dangers, all the snares of your enemies, and to assure you the success of all your enterprises and the fulfillment of your wishes." He arose, opened a chest at the foot of his bed, and took out a cedarwood box covered in gold veneer and enriched with diamonds of extraordinary brilliance. The lock, engraved with hieroglyphic characters, was also of gold. He opened this casket, revealing a large quantity of talismans and rings enriched with diamonds and engraved with magical and Kabbalistic symbols. It was impossible to look at them without being dazzled. "You see, my son, each one has its peculiar virtue, but to make use of them, you must understand the language of the magicians in order to pronounce the mysterious words engraved thereon. I will teach them to you before working with you on the great performance with the spirits and the animals who are submissive to my authority and who obey me blindly. You will see, when you have been initiated into all these mysteries, how many errors the majority of those who pretend to be servile to nature have committed. They love the truth, believe they have discovered it by means of abstract ideas, and lose their way in the faith of a reason of which they do not know the limits. The vulgar or common people see the world as an arch of glittering light during the day and a scattering of stars during the night. This is the limit of their universe. Certain philosophers have seen more and expanded their knowledge to the point of affrighting the imagination. Further, what prodigious work is offered at one stroke to the human spirit? Employ eternity to survey it. Take the wings of dawn, fly to the planet Saturn in the skies that extend over this planet. You will find, without ceasing, new spheres, new orbs, worlds accumulating one above another. You will find infinity in matter, in space, in movement, in the number of nuances and shades that adorn them. As our souls expand with our ideas and assimilate, in a certain manner, the objects they penetrate, how much then must a man become elated at having penetrated the inconceivable profundities? I am an upstart, thanks to wisdom, and you will reach this point too. He arose and took several manuscripts from the table. These precious books, my dear son, will acquaint you with things unknown to the rest of humanity, and which will seem never to have existed. These books escaped the fire of Tommy's library, though some pages have been blackened by the flames. By the knowledge I have drawn from these works, I have the authority to command all beings who inhabit the aerial and terrestrial regions, known and unknown to man. O my son, prostrate yourself before the divinity. Deplore in his presence the errors of the human spirit and promise to be as virtuous as it is possible for a man to be. Avoid studying moral philosophy in the ignorant writings of the multitudes or in schemes born from the heat of the imagination, the restlessness of the spirit, or the desire for celebrity that torments their authors. Seek guidance in works that pursue truth in public usefulness, rendering to morals and virtue the homage they have deserved in all times and from all peoples. I listened to the old man with admiration and respect. When he stopped speaking, I thought I still heard him. A sweet majesty reigned in all his features, and his persuasion seemed to pour from his lips like a limpid stream fertilizing the prairies. He noticed my admiration, which bordered on ecstasy. My dear son, he said, I pardon your astonishment. Until now, you have lived among corrupt men who doubt everything and forget the respect owed to him who has brought all from nothing. To them, wisdom is a meaningless difficulty. But as you learn it, it will become for you a practical virtue, as natural as the air you breathe and as necessary for your existence. Your wounds are healing. Tomorrow, I will commence your education in wisdom and give you the first lesson. I am now going to my aviary to feed my prisoners. What? I exclaimed. Your prisoners? With your philosophy and love of humanity, do you deprive living creatures of their liberty? He smiled at my observation. My dear son, what I do is necessary to facilitate my mysterious operations, but the destiny of those submissive to my laws is perhaps sweeter than if they enjoyed complete liberty. Besides, they have never known freedom and so cannot desire it. Tomorrow you will have the answer to all these enigmas. He then left me to enter the cave where he had previously shown me the chests filled with gold and precious stones. Soon he returned. I got up, and he told me to approach the awning so we could eat before retiring for the night. He gathered the papers from the table and took a seat, instructing me to sit beside him. I obeyed, but seeing no food, I looked at him curiously. Laughing, he added, "This food is not substantial, but in a moment you will see that I have cooks and slaves who are equally clever and intelligent." He pronounced the words, oration omitted, and blew 3 times on a ring on his finger. Immediately, The place was lit by 7 chandeliers of rock crystal appearing from the void. 9 slaves entered, bearing various dishes on golden plates and wine in vessels of exquisite richness. Incense burned in tripods, and celestial music filled the air. Everything was arranged beautifully on the table, and the slaves stood ready to serve. "You see, my son," the old man said, "I have but to command, and I am obeyed. Eat, serve yourself, and choose what will gratify you." Everything I tasted was delicious. Then I took my goblet, and the wine, like nectar, poured into it. Its bouquet, a forerunner to its delicate taste, appealed agreeably to my sense of smell. When it had astonished my palate and I had relished it, it seemed as though a divine fire flowed through my veins, as if I had acquired a new existence. I looked at the slaves who served us. They were all in the flower of their youth, of the greatest beauty, and dressed in rose silk tunics with white belts. They had flowing golden curls waving on their shoulders. With lowered eyes of respect, they attended to the orders of their master. The old man allowed me to finish my survey, and then said, "My son, have you appeased your hunger?" "Yes, my father," I replied. He raised his hand and said, "Oration omitted," and the slaves hurried to remove all that was on the table. They went out, the chandeliers disappeared, and 2 beds arranged themselves on each side of the apartment, now lit only by a lamp casting a soft light, not unlike twilight. "There, my dear son, is the manner in which you will be served every day. Your occupations will vary innumerably, and thus will preserve you from tediousness. Deliver yourself to sleep. I will do the same, and tomorrow when day appears, I will keep my word to you." "But my father, the daylight will never penetrate into your abode. How can you know when break of day will appear?" I asked. "That depends on my will, my son. It is another surprise I will arrange for you. Until tomorrow, sleep in peace." He extended his hand to me, and I pressed it to my heart. He approached his bed, lay down, and soon sleep weighed down his eyes. I imitated him for a little while, after which I fell asleep. When I opened my eyes, the lamp had vanished, and daylight lit the chamber. Rays of the sun penetrated the space. The old man was walking with a book in his hand. The movement I made interrupted his perusal. He looked at me, smiling. I got up hurriedly and flew into the arms he opened to me. "My father, I salute you." "You have rested well, my dear son," he said, "as I judge by the calm that reigns on your countenance. Render homage to God, who has permitted you to enjoy again this beautiful day that lights you. Before I initiate you into the mysteries of wisdom, I will have a conversation with you on a point of my doctrine necessary for development." He gave me a book and opening it said, "Here is the first page and the prayer you must address to the great being." And I read the following. Oration of the Sages. Immortal, eternal, ineffable, and sacred Father of all things, who is carried on the chariot rolling without cease of the worlds which rotate always, ruler of the etheric plane, where your throne of power is exalted, and from whose heights thy formidable eyes discover everything and your beautiful and saintly ears hear everything. Hearken to your children, whom you have loved from their birth through all time. Since your lasting, great, and eternal majesty shines brightly over the world and the starry heavens, thou art raised above them. O sparkling fire, there you light and maintain yourself in appropriate splendor. There comes forth from your being never-failing streams of light, nourishing your infinite spirit. This infinite spirit generates all things and makes this inexhaustible treasure of matter, which cannot fail to procreate that which always surrounds it because of the forms without number with which it is filled, and with which you have filled it since the beginning of time. From this spirit, the very saintly kings who are standing around your throne and who compose your court also draw their origin. O universal Father, O unique one, O Father of blissful mortals and immortals, You have particularly created the powers which marvelously resemble your eternal thought and your adorable essence. You have established them superior to the angels who announce your wishes to the world. Finally, you have created us sovereigns over the elements. Our continued exertion is to praise you and to adore your desires. We burn with the desire to be possessed of you. O Father, O Mother, the most tender of mothers, O admirable example of tender sentiments of mothers, O Son, the flower of all sons, O mold of all our shapes, well-beloved spirit, soul, harmony, and number of all things, we adore you. When I had finished, he said to me, My dear son, I have spoken to you of the spirits that populate the firmament, the sea, the earth, and fire, that is to say, the elements. I will now go into greater detail to extend the limits of your intelligence and give you the means of penetrating and understanding the sacred mysteries that will be divulged to you. He began to recount the origins of the spirits, their purpose, and their influence, slowly opening the gateway to the profound knowledge I was about to receive. His words reverberated like the opening of a hidden door into the secrets of the universe, leaving me eager and awed for what lay ahead. Everything I tasted was delicious. Then I took my goblet, and the wine, like nectar, poured into it. Its bouquet, a forerunner to its delicate taste, appealed agreeably to my sense of smell. When it had astonished my palate and I had relished it, it seemed as though a divine fire flowed through my veins, as if I had acquired a new existence. I looked at the slaves who served us. They were all in the flower of their youth, of the greatest beauty, and dressed in rose silk tunics with white belts. They had flowing golden curls waving on their shoulders. With lowered eyes of respect, they attended to the orders of their master. The old man allowed me to finish my survey and then said, My son, have you appeased your hunger? Yes, my father, I replied. He raised his hand and said, Aswam, Badak, Akos, and the slaves hurried to remove all that was on the table. They went out, the chandeliers disappeared, and two beds arranged themselves on each side of the apartment, now lit only by a lamp casting a soft light, not unlike twilight. There, my dear son, is the manner in which you will be served every day. Your occupations will vary innumerably, and thus will preserve you from tediousness. Deliver yourself to sleep. I will do the same, and tomorrow when day appears, I will keep my word to you. But my father, the daylight will never penetrate into your abode. How can you know when the break of day will appear? I asked. That depends on my will, my son. It is another surprise I will arrange for you. Until tomorrow, sleep in peace. He extended his hand to me, and I pressed it to my heart. He approached his bed, lay down, and soon sleep weighed down his eyes. I imitated him for a little while, after which I fell asleep. When I opened my eyes, the lamp had vanished, and daylight lit the chamber. Rays of the sun penetrated the space. The old man was walking with a book in his hand. The movement I made interrupted his perusal. He looked at me, smiling. I got up hurriedly and flew into the arms he opened to me. My father, I salute you. You have rested well, my dear son, he said, as I judge by the calm that reigns on your countenance. Render homage to God, who has permitted you to enjoy again this beautiful day that lights you. Before I initiate you into the mysteries of wisdom, I will have a conversation with you on a point of my doctrine necessary for development. He gave me a book and opening it said, Here is the first page and the prayer you must address to the great being. And I read the following. Oration of the Sages. Immortal, eternal, ineffable, and sacred Father of all things, who is carried on the chariot rolling without cease of the worlds which rotate always, ruler of the etheric plane, where your throne of power is exalted, and from whose heights thy formidable eyes discover everything and your beautiful and saintly ears hear everything. Hearken to your children, whom you have loved from their birth through all time. since your lasting, great, and eternal majesty shines brightly over the world and the starry heavens, thou art raised above them. O sparkling fire, there you light and maintain yourself in appropriate splendor. There comes forth from your being never failing streams of light, nourishing your infinite spirit. This infinite spirit generates all things and makes this inexhaustible treasure of matter, which cannot fail to procreate that which always surrounds it because of the forms without number with which it is filled and with which you have filled it since the beginning of time. From this spirit, the very saintly kings who are standing around your throne and who compose your court also draw their origin. O universal Father, O unique one, O Father of blissful mortals and immortals, you have particularly created the powers which marvelously resemble your eternal thought and your adorable essence. You have established them superior to the angels who announce your wishes to the world. Finally, you have created us sovereigns over the elements. Our continued exertion is to praise you and to adore your desires. We burn with the desire to be possessed of you. O Father, O Mother, the most tender of mothers, O admirable example of tender sentiments of mothers, O Son, the flower of all sons, O mold of all our shapes, well-beloved spirit, soul, harmony, and number of all things, we adore you. When I had finished, he said to me, My dear son, I have spoken to you of the spirits that populate the firmament, the sea, the earth, and fire, that is to say, the elements. I will now go into greater detail to extend the limits of your intelligence and give you the means of penetrating and understanding the sacred mysteries that will be divulged to you. He began to recount the origins of the spirits, their purpose, and their influence, slowly opening the gateway to the profound knowledge I was about to receive. His words reverberated like the opening of a hidden door into the secrets of the universe, leaving me eager and awed for what lay ahead. These characters should be written on the wand with India ink. Once completed, the old man spoke to the spirits who carried me, and I found myself transported to the foot of the pyramid. I saw a multitude of Arabs on horseback surveying it. Although I had not noticed him initially, the old man stood near me, enjoying my astonishment. You see, my son, how all the spirits are submissive to you, how they will obey you and await your orders. Do you wish to return to the place you left, or to soar for some time in the middle of the aerial parts? Do you know that you can see all that is happening around you, and that you are visible only to the great being who wishes to accord you wisdom and to those who accompany you? I express my desire to survey the immensity. Pronounce Saram while extending your arms towards the east, and you will be satisfied, he instructed. I uttered the word and made the indicated sign. The spirits lifted me and the old man. We ascended toward the clouds, and a vast horizon opened to my enchanted eyes. The old man said to me once again, You see, I have not made vain promises. You will have the same success in all your undertakings. But let us return to the pyramid. The spirits await us, and we will continue our workings. He said Rabiam, and very soon we re-entered the abode of the old man. When we were seated, the spirits disappeared, leaving only the first one with us. All the insignia changed, and a very intense light illuminated the vault. He then formed the second magic circle. Placing himself therein, the old man said to me, Go near your spirit. I give you permission, for I know that you have a pure heart, that you have never been guilty of any action which would make you blush. If that were not the case, you would be struck down dead on entering this circle. Go, my son. I followed his instructions. He opened the casket where all the rings were to be found, and drew out that one shown in figure 3, as well as the talisman which he placed in my hands. These characters should be written on the wand with India ink. Once completed, the old man spoke to the spirits who carried me, and I found myself transported to the foot of the pyramid. I saw a multitude of Arabs on horseback surveying it. Although I had not noticed him initially, The old man stood near me, enjoying my astonishment. You see, my son, how all the spirits are submissive to you, how they will obey you and await your orders. Do you wish to return to the place you left, or to soar for some time in the middle of the aerial parts? Do you know that you can see all that is happening around you, and that you are visible only to the great being who wishes to accord you wisdom, and to those who accompany you? I express my desire to survey the immensity. Pronounce Sarum while extending your arms towards the east, and you will be satisfied, he instructed. I uttered the word and made the indicated sign. The spirits lifted me and the old man. We ascended toward the clouds, and the vast horizon opened to my enchanted eyes. The old man said to me once again, You see, I have not made vain promises. You will have the same success in all your undertakings. But let us return to the pyramid. The spirits await us, and we will continue our workings. He said Rabiam, and very soon we re-entered the abode of the old man. When we were seated, the spirits disappeared, leaving only the first one with us. All the insignia changed, and a very intense light illuminated the vault. He then formed the second magic circle. He had finished speaking when the spirit with the rose-colored wings arrived, carrying in his arms a woman enveloped in a large white veil. She seemed to be asleep, and he placed her gently on a couch which appeared near me. He raised the veil that hid her. Never had anything so beautiful been offered to my eyes. She was Venus with all the charms of innocence. She sighed and opened the most beautiful eyes in the world, which came to rest on me. In a most harmonious voice, she uttered a cry of surprise, saying, It is he. The old man told me to approach the beauty, place a knee on the ground, for it is thus that one should speak to her, and to take her hand. I obeyed, and the divinity to whom I addressed my homage said to me, I have seen thee in a dream, and the reality thereof makes thee more dear to my heart. I prefer you to the Sultan, who for a long time has fatigued me with his homage. That is enough, said the old man, and he said forcefully, Manslay her. 4 slaves appeared to remove the couch, and she who had made such a vivid impression on my heart. The old man noticed my emotion and the pain which resulted from her departure. He said to me, You will see her again. Understand that in order to possess wisdom, it is necessary to know how to resist the allurements of voluptuousness. His words brought me back to myself, and I said to him, Pardon, my father, but you have seen her, and that is my excuse. I replaced the ring and the talisman in the casket, and he gave me the one illustrated in figure No. 5. The Black Pullet Science of Magical Talismans. These characters should be engraved on the inside of the ring. This talisman and this ring are not less valuable. They will enable you to discover all the treasures which exist and to ensure you the possession of them. Place the ring on the second finger of your right hand. Enclose the talisman with the thumb and little finger of your left hand, and say, Oration omitted. I repeated these 3 words, and 7 spirits of a bronze color appeared, each carrying a large hide bag which they emptied at my feet. They contained gold coins that rolled across the hall where we were. I had not noticed that one of the spirits had on his shoulder a black bird, its head covered with a kind of hood. It is this bird, the old man said to me, who has made them find all this treasure. Do not think that these are some of what you have seen here. You can assure yourself of this. I replied, You are for me the truth itself, my father. Do you believe that I would insult you by doubting? He made a sign, and the spirits replaced the gold in the bags and disappeared. You see, my son, what the virtues of these talismans and rings are. When you know them all, you will be able, without my aid, to perform such miracles as you judge proper. Replace in the casket those of which you have made proof, and take this one figure No. 6. These characters should be engraved on the inside of the ring. They will enable you to discover the most hidden secrets. You will be able to penetrate everywhere without being seen, and not a single word in the universe can be uttered without it coming to your ears, whether you wish to listen to it yourself or to have it brought back to us by your agents when you order them to do so. To prove it to you, repeat these words and place the talisman near your ear while you hold the ring tightly in your left hand. Oration omitted. I distinctly heard a voice which said to me, "The Grand Mogul has decided in his private council that he must declare war on the Emperor of China." Another voice said to me, "All is rumor in Constantinople. Last night the Sultana was carried off, and the Grand Sultan is in despair. He has had all the eunuchs thrown into the sea after having had them beheaded. O heavens, what mischief I have done without wishing it," I cried in pain. "Well, my son," the old man said, "it is a lesson for you to learn not to be enslaved by your passions and to know how to curb them. This is enough for today. Tomorrow we will continue." The next day, we continued the course of our mysterious operations. The spirit had not left us. "You see, my son," said the old man, "that everything becomes easy with confidence and a pure soul without stain." He opened the casket and took from it the talisman and ring figure No. 7. When he had placed them in my hands, he pronounced two words, which he promised to teach me. "Place this ring on the little finger of your left hand and the talisman to your right ear, and the most discreet man will divulge to you his most hidden thoughts." Here are the two words, Noctur, Raven, and if you add a third word, which is Byranther, your greatest enemies will not be able to prevent themselves from loudly publishing their projects against you. In order to convince you, I am going to have appear before you one of the beys of Cairo, and he will impart to you all of his schemes against the French. He then said Noctar to the spirit, who vanished like lightning. A quarter of an hour later, the spirit returned with the bey, who said, "We have made a treaty of alliance with the English, and the armistice concluded with the French will be broken without warning." The bey disappeared with the spirit after the old man had said, "Zelander, the mufti of the Grand Mosque will appear before your eyes and show you a manuscript of a work which he has composed and refused to show to his best friends, even the Grand Vizier." I followed the old man's instructions, and very soon the mufti appeared. Placing his manuscript on the table, he said to me, "Tonas Zuger," which means in the language of the Magi, "Read and believe." The old man looked at him affectionately and pronounced with sweetness and expression, "O solemn." The mufti, after bowing, disappeared. "Return the talisman and the ring to me," the old man said, "and take this. Figure No. 8. The Black Pullet Science of Magical Talismans. Characters to be engraved on the inside of the ring. This will serve to activate as many spirits as you wish to undertake or to stop operations which would be contrary to you. The magic words are oration omitted. We will not at this moment make any experiments. Tomorrow we will go to the shores of the Nile, and we will have constructed a bridge of a single arch on which we shall pass to the other side of the river. Here is the next talisman and its ring. Figure No. 9. These characters should be engraved on the inside of the ring. They have the property of destroying everything, of commanding the elements, of calling down thunder, hail, the stars, earthquakes, hurricanes, and waterspouts on land and sea, and of preserving our friends from all accidents. Here are the words which one must pronounce. The numbers indicate each thing that you wish to operate. Oration omitted. The talisman and the ring figure No. 10 will make you invisible to all eyes, even those of the spirits. Only the great being could be witness to your steps and your actions. You will penetrate everywhere into the bosom of the seas, into the bowels of the earth, and you can likewise survey the airs. No action of men can be hidden from you. Say only, oration omitted. I repeated these 4 words, and through the walls of the pyramid, I saw 2 Arabs on the plain who were profiting by the obscurity to ransack a tomb where they hope to find something of value. You will be able, when you wish, to prove the other things I have taught you. It will only be necessary to place the ring successively on the different fingers of the right hand. The talisman and ring figure no. 11 will serve to transport you into whatever part of the world you judge appropriate without running any danger. Say merely these words, oration omitted, but I hope that you will not make use of these means to leave me without my consent. Promise it to me. My father, I swear to it. The Black Pullet Science of Magical Talismans. Characters to be engraved on the inside of the ring. With the talisman and the ring figure no. 12, you will be able to open all locks, no matter what secrets have been employed to shut them. You will not need a key. Simply by touching them with the ring and pronouncing these 3 words, oration omitted, they will open of themselves without difficulty. Make proof of this on the spot, my son, the old man told me. Close the casket which you see on that table. I did this, and after having assured myself that nothing could open it but the key, I touched it with the ring and pronounced the magic words, and it opened of its own accord. It will be the same, added the old man, with all the doors of prisons, fortified castles, where they might lock you up. The Black Pullet Science of Magical Talismans. Characters to be engraved on the inside of the ring. With the talisman and ring figure no. 13. You will be able to see what takes place in all houses without being obliged to enter them. You will be able to read the thoughts of everyone whom you approach and with whom you find yourself, and you will be able to render them service or do them injury as you wish. It will be sufficient to place the talisman on your head and then to blow on the ring saying, oration omitted. These words are for knowing the thoughts of people. In order to render service to those who deserve it, you say, Nista, Saper, Visnos, and they will immediately enjoy all sorts of prosperities. To punish the wicked and your enemies, you will say, oration omitted, and they will at once suffer punishment and frightful torment. What you have already seen should prove to you that I have advanced nothing which cannot be realized. Therefore, it is useless to make proof thereof. The Black Pullet Science of Magical Talismans. Characters to be engraved on the inside of the ring. The talisman and the ring figure no. 14 will serve you to destroy all the projects which could be made against you, and if any spirit wished to oppose your wishes, you could force him to submit to you. Place the talisman on a table under your left hand, and with the ring on the second finger of the right hand, you say in a bass voice, while inclining your head, oration omitted. The Black Pullet Science of Magical Talismans. Characters to be engraved on the inside of the ring. The talisman and ring figure no. 15 have a property as extraordinary as agreeable. They will give you all the virtues, all the talents, and the inclination to do good by changing all substances which are of a bad quality and rendering them excellent. For the first object, while elevating the talisman, and with the ring placed on the first joint of the third finger of the left hand, it is sufficient to pronounce these words, Turan istonos fusa. For the second operation, you say, oration omitted, and you will see operate the wonder which I have proclaimed to you. The Black Pullet Science of Magical Talismans. Characters to be engraved on the inside of the ring. The talisman and the ring figure no. 16 will assist you to know all the minerals and vegetables, their virtues and properties, and you will possess the universal medicine. There is no illness that you will not be able to cure, and no cure that you will undertake without success. Aesculapius and Hippocrates will only be novices compared to you. You pronounce only these words, oration omitted, and when you are near a sick person, you will carry the talisman on the stomach and the ring with the St. Andrew's cross around your neck on a ribbon the color of fire. The Black Pullet Science of Magical Talismans. Characters to be engraved on the inside of the ring. The talisman and the ring figure no. 17 will keep you safe in the midst of the most ferocious animals. Subdue them to your will, and know by their different cries what they want, as they have a language among themselves. Mad animals will keep at a distance from you, and you will make them perish forthwith by pronouncing the words which I am going to indicate to you. For the first operation, it is sufficient to say, oration omitted. For the second, oration omitted, characters to be engraved on the inside of the ring. The talisman and ring figure no. 18 will enable you to know the good or bad intentions of all the individuals whom you will meet, to guarantee you of it, and to impress on their face a mark which will be noticed by everyone. It is sufficient to pronounce these mysterious words while placing the talisman on your heart and the ring on the little finger of your right hand. You will then say, oration omitted. Second prayer. There is in God an immense profundity of flame. The heart ought not, however, to fear to touch or to be touched by this adorable fire. It will not be consumed by this sweet fire, whose tranquil and imperishable heat makes the union, harmony, and duration of the world. Nothing exists except by this fire, which is God. No one has engendered it. It is without mother. It knows all, and no one is able to know anything of it. It is immovable in its projects, and its name is ineffable. Here, then, is that which is God, because for us, who are his messengers, we are but a small part of God. You see, my son, that all the instructions that I give you have as a basis the respect which one owes to God, who is the principle of all things, and whose ineffable and limitless goodness fills us to the brim each day with all his gifts, when we render ourselves worthy of it by our respect and our submission to his will and his immutable decree. The old man, after these reflections, said to me, You have no doubt noticed, my son, that I have spoken to you about the birds to whom I was going to give food, and you have seen spirits who had one with them. When the pieces of gold were deposited at your feet, it was these birds who enabled them to discover it by their instinct and by the magical and cabalistic words which one pronounced. To procure these birds, there are difficulties without number that one must conquer, and the profane, those who are not initiated into our mysteries, make useless efforts to obtain them. It is of the marvelous black hen that I am going to converse with you. The great Oromases, father of Zoroaster, was the first who possessed one. It is from him that I possess the secret of calling them into existence, and here is the manuscript in which is contained the manner of hatching these birds, who are as rare as they are precious. He opened for me at the same time this manuscript, whose cover was a thin plate of gold covered with diamonds, rubies, topazes, and sapphires, whose brilliance it was impossible to bear. The paper was of a dazzling whiteness, and the hieroglyphic characters were traced by hand in rose-colored ink. I will teach you to read in this book as I can, he said to me, but let us occupy ourselves with the way to hatch the black hen and to procure the eggs from which she will come forth. He took several pieces of aromatic woods, such as aloes, cedar, lemon, laurel, some root of iris, and some roses whose leaves had been dried in the sun. Translator's note: the author distinctly states leaves, not petals. He put the lot in a chafing dish of gold, poured on top thereof balsamic oil of the purest essence, transparent gum, and having pronounced the words, oration omitted, the sunlight penetrated the vault. He placed a glass on the chafing dish. At the same moment that the sun's rays struck the glass, the perfumes and pieces of odorous wood burst into flame. The glass liquefied, and an agreeable odor diffused in the vault. Very soon nothing was left but cinders. The old man, who had not ceased to watch with the greatest attention, took a golden egg from a black velvet bag, which I had not noticed. He opened this egg, enclosed the burning cinders therein, and placed it on a black cushion. He covered it with a faceted rock crystal bell. Then, raising his eyes and arms toward the vault, he cried, oration omitted. The sun seemed to dart its rays on this bell with even greater force and violence. The bell became the color of fire, and the golden egg disappeared before my eyes. A thin vapor rose in the air, and I saw a little black pullet, which stirred, got to its feet, and clucked faintly. The old man extended one of his fingers to it, and it perched there. He then pronounced these two words, oration omitted, and the winged creature glided onto his breast. There, said the old man, is the manner of procuring a black hen. In a few days, it will be of ordinary size, and I will instruct it in front of you. You will see the instinct of this animal to discover the most hidden treasures, and the smallest particle of gold cannot escape it. Let us give thanks to the great being who has permitted us to penetrate these mysteries and to perform such prodigies and marvels. We will say together the two prayers recounted earlier. After having fulfilled this duty, he said to me, My son, this is enough. We will take a little rest. The sun had shone on us for some time. It disappeared, and its light was replaced by that of several chandeliers. The spirit, who had not left us, took a lyre, and accompanying himself, sang in the language of the magicians of the eternal power and the marvels of nature. The old man listened with attention to the accents of the spirit. For myself, I was enchanted, and he smiled as he observed me. This is enough, he said to the spirit. Before delivering ourselves to rest, I wish to show you the means of having a black hen without having recourse to those which I have used, for it would be difficult to obtain the perfumes and the other materials which I placed in the chafing dish, if others than you or I wish to perform this great work. But if someday you find someone who is worthy of being initiated, here is the means which you should employ. Take an egg, which you will expose at noon to the gleams of the sun, observing that it has not the least stain. Then you choose a hen as black as possible. If it has any feathers of another color, you will pull them out. You will cover its head with a hood of black material in such a manner that it cannot distinguish anything. You will allow it the use of its beak. Enclose it in a box lined also with black material, big enough to contain it, and place that in a room where daylight cannot penetrate. Be careful to bring it food only at night. When all these indispensable precautions have been taken, you will give it the egg to sit on, taking care that it is not disturbed by any noise. It all depends on the blackness of this hen. Its imagination will be impressed with it, and at the proper time, you will see hatched a hen that is completely black. But I repeat to you, it is necessary that those who perform this shall be worthy by their wisdom and virtue to participate in these sacred and divine mysteries. For if we are not able to read the hearts of men, it is not the same with the Great Spirit. All is known to him, and he penetrates our most secret intentions and our most hidden thoughts. It is after that he accords or refuses us his favors and gifts. The old man concluded by demonstrating the marvels of the black hens, their ability to discover hidden gold, and their perfect obedience. Truly, the wonders he revealed to me were beyond all imagining, reinforcing my gratitude and wonder for the mysteries I had been entrusted with. He had the birds re-enclosed with the same precautions as were taken to let them out. He then said to me, Let us see what condition my newborn is in. He opened a little box lined with down in which he had enclosed it, and already feathers were beginning to appear. A few more days, he said, and it will be able to receive the first lessons. He replaced the box in its place. Since we have been together, said the old man, we have not gone out. We will make a little excursion into the country and wear the costume of the locality. The spirit covered his head with a turban and dressed completely like a Turk. I did the same, and we prepared to depart. Before leaving, I saw the old man take a talisman and a ring. I remarked on it, and he told me that perhaps it might be necessary for us, and that precaution was the mother of security. We then went our way and walked quietly for some time. The old man spoke to us of the changes which took place in the world from time to time, of the revolution of the stars and the planets. He seemed to give notice to us and to foreshadow things which would follow. All of a sudden, A horde of Arabs pounced upon us with raised swords. The old man looked at them without fright, and he raised his hand. The brigand stopped. He pronounced the words prescribed for the talisman figure no. 10, and we became invisible. The astonished Arabs looked on all sides without seeing us. It is impossible to paint a picture of the astonishment of these villains. Their chief appeared astounded. The old man smiled. He pronounced the word Natarter in a loud voice, and they took flight with lightning rapidity. Be calm, said the old man. For a long time they will not dare to appear in this territory. We continued walking for some time. The time passed with an extraordinary rapidity. The conversation of the old man was so varied, so instructive, that it was impossible to listen to him without being charmed by all that he said. Let us return to our abode. After having pronounced these words, he looked at the sun and cried, Brilliant star, image of the divinity, thou who vivifies the earth and gives life to nature, receive my homage. May I, ere I leave the earth, constantly enjoy thy light. What has given birth to these somber ideas? I immediately cried. Why do you think of leaving earth? Ah, my son, each day which passes, each that we take leads us towards the tomb. Lucky is the just man who can go to sleep in peace in the care of God to enjoy thereafter the rewards promised to virtue. Also, my son, do you believe that I do not concern myself with my last hour? At my age, it is permitted to think of it, and I have always lived in a manner so as to be able to die without fear. I am 270 years old, and I have seen many things pass. I will pass also when my turn comes. And now enough of this matter. I see that I trouble you, and that is not my intention. Let us talk of other things. The talisman and ring figure no. 20 will furnish you with the means to win at lotteries. I wish also to indicate to you an infallible calculation to obtain the same advantages. It is really very simple. You take a game of piquet composed of 32 cards. You shuffle them, cut, and extract 19 cards one after the other, commencing with that which is underneath. Take their numbers. No, the ace is 11, the king 4, the queen 3, the knave 2, and the other cards their numerical value. Add up the total. Then add the 30 or 31 days of the month in which you find yourself, your age, the day of your birth, that is to say, the first, second, or third, or such other day and a date when you have proved something happy or agreeable. You add all these numbers, take a third of it, and place in the lottery the numbers which this edition has given you. You can be certain that these numbers will come out in totality or in part on the different wheels. For instance, if you find the numbers 13, 52, 73, you can take again 31, 25, 37, and the unities. This calculation is infallible. You can convince yourself. The number 30 is privilege, and it is from this that all is calculated, for 3 times 30 makes 90. It is from this that one does not wish to exceed this number in the lottery. It is the same with all games. The numbers which have 3 for a root are the most fortunate. Odd is all. God, after having created the world and being occupied for 6 days in establishing the admirable order which exists, rested on the seventh, which is odd. Let us take God as an example and a model in all that we do, and we will be assured in all that we undertake. You have noticed, my son, that odd numbers are the basis of all the mysterious operations into which I have initiated you. We continued our route and arrived at the pyramid. He opened the door and we went down. Arriving in the hall, we sat down on a sofa which faced the table on which was the casket of the talismans. The old man replaced the one which had served to clear away the Arabs, and we remained in silence for some time. The old man appeared tired. He reclined on the sofa and soon was asleep. I cast my eyes on his venerable figure, and I admired his serenity. Calmness spread over all his features. I remarked about this to the spirit who told me. It is the image of his soul. I have obeyed him for more than a century. You cannot have any idea of his virtue, of his wisdom, of his goodness. His days are numerous, and all are marked by some good deed. Of the unhappy he has rescued without their ever knowing who the being was who came to their help. If the eternal soul who has created all should take the figure of a mortal, it is his which he would borrow. Is not the just man, in effect, the image of God on earth? Many have taken the title, but how many have usurped it and merited little? After having pronounced these words, the spirit got up, knelt on the ground near the old man, and raising his hands and eyes towards heaven, said in a solemn tone which awed me, "Eternal Spirit, who hears me and who reads hearts, prolong the life of this virtuous man. Ensure that he adorns by his presence for a long time to come the earth which you enrich with thy gifts, unless you have reserved for him near thee a reward worthy of him." The sentiments with which he expressed these words keenly moved me. Tears wet my eyes, and I fell on my knees as he had. The old man awoke at this moment, and casting his eyes on us, he said to us with a smile, "What are you doing, my children?" I answered that we were praying to the great being to conserve our father for us. "My good friends," answered the old man, "our life has a term set by Providence which we cannot extend. Everything begins, everything must end. God alone is eternal. The only thing which can survive us is the memory of our virtues and the good examples which we have set. While, like voyagers, we can perceive the course of our destiny and what good or evil we have done as we have been more or less the slaves of our passions. Happy is he who has been able to command himself and to distinguish the happiness which is praiseworthy from what is not. For myself, I have been happy enough. I made the distinction in the springtime of my life, and in the winter I taste the sweetness. I shall soon return into the bosom of him who has created me. A dream announced it to me in my sleep. In a few hours my soul will leave its mortal remains and will rise towards the celestial regions. O heavens, my Father, I cried, what do you announce? What you must await like myself, my dear son. But I bless my departure since I have the consolation in dying of leaving my heritage to a man who is deserving, who loves virtue, who practices it, and who will never step aside from it. I will inform you of my last wishes, and you will execute them punctually if you love me and if you are grateful. "Oh, my father," I cried, "can you doubt it?" "No, my dear son, I do not doubt at all. Now listen to me. All these treasures, all the jewels enclosed in this subterranean apartment, also the talismans and the rings, the slaves, and the birds which you have seen are yours. To you, Otis," he said to the spirit, "I cannot do more than pronounce all my tenderness for one whom I have found worthy to succeed me. Love him, serve him as you would me, and from the celestial sphere to which I shall soon arise, I will watch over you." He clapped his hands, and all the slaves appeared. "Here is your master," he said to them. "Be obedient to him, I order you." They all came and prostrated themselves at my feet. "Extend your hand over them as a sign of domination," the old man said to me. I obeyed. They arose, and the old man, having made a sign, they disappeared. He added, "Take the gold urn which you will find in the cabinet on the right and place it on the table. When I no longer exist, place my body in the middle of this chamber. Take the aromatic woods, which you will find near the coffers filled with gold, and surround me with them. After having poured over the pyre the liquid enclosed in the vase suspended from the roof, you will use the talisman with which I formed the egg in which was enclosed the black hen. After having pronounced the mysterious words, you will set the funeral pyre on fire to consume my mortal remains. Take the ashes and enclose them in the urn. Conserve them. Men, cherish my memory. I die content. I would have liked to show you the means of instructing the little black pullet, but heaven which knows our projects has not wished it so. Otis will teach you. He also knows this secret. I feel my soul ready to fly away. Come, my dear son, dry your tears so that I can press you once again to my heart. Remember, death is only dreaded by the guilty and the unjust man. I approached him, and he gave me a last kiss. Goodbye, my dear son, he said. Listen to my last wishes. While I was still bending over the sofa, he expired. I could not help myself saying, while sobbing, that the death of the just is sweet and worthy of envy. I fell almost unconscious at the feet of my benefactor. Otis brought me back to my senses by observing that we had to obey our father. We then punctually performed that which he had ordered, and soon there remained only the ashes of the most just and most virtuous of men. I said to Otis, "We will leave this day and make all the necessary arrangements for returning to my country." "I am with you," answered the spirit. "Your wishes are law for me. Command and I obey." I had all the slaves brought before me and had them put on French costumes. It sufficed me to have recourse to the talismans. I had all the treasures and the effects which were in the underground vaults transported to the banks of the Nile and provided for the precious urn, which I personally kept. Otis found a boat. We went down the river, and very soon we entered the roadstead where a vessel was about to set sail for Marseille. I boarded with all my people, and soon we were in mid-ocean. The captain of the vessel and the sailors examined us with extreme curiosity. As I spoke all languages at will, they were even more surprised. Night came, and the wind rose. The captain told me that he feared a storm. I told him that his vessel was good and would resist it. That which he foretold arrived. The sea became furious. Fear and despair were on all faces. The pilot could no longer control the ship. Only I, calm and tranquil, seemed unmoved. Provided with the talisman and ring figure No. 9 and pronouncing the mysterious words, I seized the tiller and the vessel which, the instant before, was the plaything of the winds and the surrounding waves, sailed forward lightly over the vast bosom of the sea. The whole crew regarded me as a god, even giving me that name. "I am but man," I told them. "My friends, I do not frighten easily. I know the art of navigation, and you see, it is only necessary to be composed to stand the storm at bay." The rest of our voyage was very happy. We arrived at Marseille, and we passed through quarantine before stepping ashore. I paid for my passage and that of my followers with a generosity which astonished the captain. I gave a present to each man of the crew, and I departed crowned with their blessings. I stayed for some time at Marseille. Having ridden to the place of my birth, I found that my parents no longer were alive. They had died during my absence, leaving me sole heir to their estates, which I sold, and the proceeds of which were sent to me. I bought a lovely property on the outskirts of Marseille, the beautiful sky of Provence pleasing me. I improved my house, and I had a delightful stay. The riches I possessed were such that I could obtain at will all that I desired, even to place myself to my satisfaction. I had a few friends to whom I gave advice, who followed it, and who were all astonished at their prosperity. They were ignorant as to the source. I did not share my secrets with anyone. Inclination has made me write this little volume. If those who procure it know how to profit from it, and are worthy of penetrating the mysteries and the secrets it contains, they will gamble with luck reserved for virtue and wisdom. They must not become discouraged. "Constant and stubborn work will surmount everything," says an ancient proverb. They should thus work, and if success does not crown their efforts, they must lay the blame on themselves. It is because they are not pure and virtuous. The incredulous, the ignorant, and many others whom it is useless to designate will treat me as a fool, a visionary, an importunist. It matters little to me. The truth is there. I do not seek to repel injuries, still less censure. Certain family libraries, which have no other merit than to get hold of what belongs to others, will perhaps make haste to publish a surreptitious edition of this work. This is the only thing which I will punish with a talisman which I am keeping to myself, and a ring more curious still. I reserve for myself the decoration of the perpetrator with 2 ears 6 inches longer than those provided of yore for King Midas, who had been well judged. It is a warning which I give in passing to certain editors. You notice that for a sorcerer I do not push my vengeance very far. And you, for whom I have written this work, you who seek to enlighten yourself, to penetrate, to understand the mysteries and the secrets of nature, work with consistency, persevere, purify yourself to obtain success, the object of your wishes and your desires. Consider that the smallest stain with which your heart and your soul will be contaminated will be an invincible obstacle against success. You will see the harbor without being able to enter, and will be shipwrecked at the moment when you believe yourself saved. Watch, pray, hope. Adieu, my dear and well-loved readers. May you be able to play with all the ease which has become my lot. Amen. The old man did not indicate to me the method of instructing the black pullet which he had hatched, but before expiring, he informed me that Otis would impart the important secret to me. When we were installed in my home in Marseille, I reminded him of the old man's promise. The hen was of ordinary size and was eager to satisfy me. It had become so familiar that it hardly ever left me. I took particular care of it during our voyage, and if I have not mentioned this fact, it is because I judged it of little importance. We therefore occupied ourselves with the education of our bird. We placed a piece of gold in the basket where it was in the habit of sleeping, and covered its eyes with the hood of which I have already spoken. 2 or 3 days after that preliminary operation, each morning when I took it food to eat, it scratched in its basket, and taking the piece of gold in its beak, it guarded it until I took it. One can see that the instinct of this bird was as extraordinary as marvelous. Otis said to me, I have never yet seen as intelligent a one, but also it is necessary to admit that our good and respected father employed a means to give it birth, which was known only to himself, and which he had never put into operation in front of me. This proves the tenderness and friendship he had given you. It will be necessary, as from tomorrow, to hide a piece of gold in the garden. We will carry our hen to some distance, and we will see if she discovers it. The next morning we did as agreed. I uncovered the head of my bird. It stayed on my knees for some time, looking in different directions. Finally, it jumped lightly to the ground and ran to the foot of a big tree which was opposite us. It started to scratch animatedly. Otis said to me, I guarantee that there is some treasure hidden at the foot of that tree. Let the hen carry on. She scratched all the time, and to shorten the operation, I took a spade which the gardener had left nearby, and after having scooped out about 2 feet, I discovered a case about 4 feet square and surrounded with iron bands. As we did not have the key, I sent Otis to find the talisman figure No. 12. He returned promptly, and hardly had I attacked the lock with the ring than it opened, and we discovered several sacks filled with gold and silver, plate, diamonds, jewels, and several other precious objects, which were valued at 1,500,000 francs. It seemed that these riches had been concealed in this place during the time of the civil troubles, and as the owners died without revealing their secret, nobody had any knowledge of this deposit. I had bought this property from distant relatives. I could not prevent myself, nor could Otis, from admiring the instinct of our black hen, but it was equally necessary for it to find the other piece of hidden gold. We advanced a few steps, and she followed us. Soon she went ahead of us and stopped near the place where the gold was hidden. She soon found it, and taking it in her beak, she deposited it at my feet. Charming bird, I cried, how precious you are to me. You have put me in the place of a better man, the most tender and respected of fathers to me. Otis said to me, See if she will listen to the sacred words which must be pronounced every day to the black hen to indicate to her that she must look for things. He then articulated certain words, oration omitted. The hen appeared to pay attention and to understand because she started to scratch near us and found a ruby mounted in a golden ring. I am going to pronounce three other words which should indicate to her that she should repose near her master. He then said, Cirrus, Coristan, Abatuzes. The hen came and placed herself at my feet. Otis added, all the hens which you possess know these words, but it has taken some time to teach them. One must hold them with a ribbon. When pronouncing the first words, one must make them walk. When pronouncing the second, one stops them. As these birds are endowed with a particular instinct, they then do that which one desires. Having the casket brought in by my slaves, I added the Pullet's findings to those which I already possessed. I had an elegant pavilion constructed of Cremona marble, and I placed the urn containing the ashes of the old man on a black marble pedestal with a silver plaque which expressed my recognition and regrets. I had cypresses and weeping willows planted, and every day at the rising of the sun, I went, followed by Otis, to visit this pavilion and to pass an hour in support of our good father, remembering the lessons and examples of virtue which he had given me. I will cite several events with great solemnity, that on which he saved my life by taking me into the pyramid, and the anniversary of his death. This day was consecrated to grief and meditation in my house, and once every year all my slaves entered the grove which I had had surrounded with a metal grill so that nobody could enter. Also, the thickness of the bushes and the winding paths which had to be wandered through before arriving at the pavilion prevented the most piercing eye from seeing it. My days passed between work, study, meditation, and walking exercise. I received a few visitors in my home, but nobody had an inkling of that which passed in my private life. To live happily, live concealed, as a sage said, and this proverb is the rule and foundation of my conduct. Thank you for tuning in and for your support. Peace, blessings, and much love to you all.